Hello guys, so today I'm going to explain you about PAT certifications main definitions, which is very useful to complete the PAT certification. And the main important part is, if we will see once the definitions, then we will understand what is needed for the testing. So, in the definition, first definition is accessible metal part. What is accessible metal part? Any metal part that can be touched with an appropriate test finger to BSEN 61032, protection of persons or equipment by enclosures, probes for verification, or any metal that is electrically connected to such metal parts. So, the next is accessories. A device other than current using equipment associated with such equipment or with the wiring of an installation. About the appliance, apparatus intended for household or similar use. What is basic insulation? Insulation applied to live parts to provide basic protection against electric shock, and which does not necessarily include insulation used exclusively for functional purposes. Basic protection: protection against electric shock under fault free conditions. So in this we will see like L and N. This is line neutral, this is live part, okay, and enclosure. Enclosure is I can say it's kind of frame in which live part alive, and frame just save us from touching the live part. Like if I'll, okay, a person like me or you, if touching this live, if want to touch this live part, then enclosure is there, is enclosure is frame we need to touch. So next is basic safeguards. What is basic safeguards? Basic safeguard is that provide protection under normal operating conditions and under abnormal operating conditions whenever an energy source capable of causing pain or injury is present in the equipment. So this is basic safeguard. So next is circuit protective conductor. What is circuit protective conductor or CPC? So a circuit which is protected by a conductor, okay, so how it is known, normally it is known as earthing. Earthing is a CPC conductor. Why? Because it's earthing is, earthing wire or earthing cable or earthing metal is itself is a conductor, but because it's, it just saves the circuit, or it saves the people to from shock. So this kind of conductor known as circuit protective conductor. The next one is class 0 equipment. What it is? Equipment in which protection against electric shock relies upon basic insulation only. There is no supplementary or reinforced insulation. There is no provision for the connection of accessible conductive part, if any, to the protective conductor in the fixed wiring of the insulation. In the event of failure of the basic insulation, Reliance is placed upon the environment in which the equipment is installed. Class 0 equipment is largely prohibited for equipment coming within the scope of the code of the practice, because this is only a basic insulation which is provided by class 0 equipment, and it is not enough to survive a person who is connected with that live part. So because of that, class 0 equipment or class 0 equipment is not allowed in UK to be installed. The next one is class 1 equipment. Equipment in which protection against electric shock does not rely on basic insulation only, but includes means for the connection of exposed conductive parts to a protective conductor in the fixed wiring of the installation. Illustrate an item of class 1 equipment. It's like, you can take an example of water boiler. Okay, water boiler is kind of a class 1 equipment. It has a metal case that should be reliably connected with earth to provide protection for the user in the event of basic insulation failing. That is class 1 equipment. The next is class 2 equipment. Equipment in which protection against electric shock does not rely on basic insulation only, but in which additional safety precautions such as supplementary insulation are provided. There are being no provision for the connection of exposed metalwork of the equipment to a protective conductor, and no reliance upon precautions to be taken in the fixed wiring of the installation. So I can take an hair dryer is an kind of class 2 equipment. So why it is a class 2 equipment? Because it has basic insulation and also an additional safety precautions. What is additional safety precaution? It's like supplementary insulation, okay, on the metal part. So that is called as class 2 equipments. So for today, that's it, and we will see the next parts about class 3 equipments and competent persons, current using equipment, and more definitions about the PAT. Thank you so much.